Commander Vex'tar flexed his 4 claws against the control panel, watching the human transport vessel dock with their massive battle cruiser. The ship looked pathetic, honestly, like a metal tin can compared to their war machine that could glass entire planets. "Sir, the human delegate is requesting permission to board," his communications officer, Zalthis, announced with barely concealed amusement. "One human?" Vex'tar's mandibles clicked together in what humans might mistake for laughter. "They send one soft skin to negotiate the surrender of their entire species?" "Apparently so, Commander. Her name is, let me see, Captain Maya Torres." Vex'tar stood up from his command throne, all 8 feet of his armored frame casting a shadow across the bridge. His species, the Kryllian Empire, had conquered 47 star systems. They had weapons that could crack moons in half, shields that could deflect supernovas, and warriors bred for nothing but war. And Earth sends them one woman. "This will be entertaining," he rumbled, his voice carrying the bass notes that made lesser species tremble. "Have her escorted to Conference Room 7, the one with the weapon scanners." "Yes, sir. Should we prepare the standard intimidation protocol?" "Oh, absolutely. Full honor guard, ceremonial weapons, the works. I want this human to understand exactly what they're dealing with." 20 minutes later, Vex'tar entered Conference Room 7, flanked by 6 of his most imposing warriors. Each one stood 7 feet tall minimum, wearing battle armor that had seen actual combat across multiple worlds. Their plasma rifles hummed with contained energy, and their eyes glowed with the predatory focus of apex hunters. The human sat at the far end of the conference table, looking, well, disappointingly ordinary. Maya Torres appeared to be in her early 30s, with dark hair pulled back in a simple ponytail, and wearing what looked like a standard military dress uniform. No visible weapons, no armor, no cybernetic enhancements. She was maybe 5.5 feet tall and probably weighed less than one of his claws. "Captain Torres," Vex'tar announced, his voice booming through the chamber's acoustic system, "I am Commander Vex'tar of the Kryllian Third Fleet. You stand aboard a vessel that has reduced entire civilizations to ash." Maya looked up from the datapad she'd been reading and smiled. Actually smiled. "Nice ship, Commander. Very compensatory." Vex'tar's warriors shifted uncomfortably. In 300 years of conquest, no species had ever opened negotiations with sarcasm. "You seem remarkably calm for someone whose species faces extinction," Vex'tar said, taking his seat across from her. The chair groaned under his weight. "Do you understand why you're here?" "Oh, I have a pretty good idea." Maya set down her datapad and folded her hands. "You want us to surrender unconditionally? Probably become your slaves or cattle or whatever it is you do with conquered species. Am I close?" "Disturbingly accurate." Vex'tar leaned forward. "Your military analysis correctly concluded that your species cannot win a direct confrontation with our forces. Your weapons are primitive, your ships are fragile, and your soldiers are weak. Surrender now, and we may allow some of your kind to survive as entertainment." "That's very generous of you." Maya's smile never wavered. "Just out of curiosity, how many of those 47 civilizations you conquered actually fought back?" "All of them, initially. But when faced with our superior technology and warrior spirit, they all eventually saw reason." "Ah," Maya nodded thoughtfully. "And how many of them were humans?" Vex'tar's claws scraped against the table surface. "None. You would be the first." "Well then, this should be interesting." The ship's intercom crackled to life. "Commander, we're detecting some unusual energy signatures from the human's home system. Nothing threatening, just odd." Maya checked something on her wrist communicator. "Oh, that'll be the welcome wagon." "Explain." "Well, Commander, here's the thing. You asked if I brought a weapon to this little meeting." Maya stood up slowly, that infuriating smile still plastered across her face. "And I said I brought me. But I should probably clarify something." Vex'tar's warriors raised their weapons, plasma coils charging. "Clarify what?" "I'm not here to negotiate Earth's surrender." Maya's voice remained perfectly conversational, like she was discussing the weather. "I'm here to accept yours." The conference room fell silent, except for the hum of charging weapons. Then Vex'tar began to laugh. Deep, resonant chuckles that made the walls vibrate. "Accept our surrender? You're either insane or suffering from some form of brain damage. Look around you, human. You're outnumbered 6-1 in a room full of trained killers, aboard a ship that could reduce your homeworld to debris. 7-1, actually. You forgot yourself." Maya tilted her head. "But I appreciate the confidence boost." "Commander," came another voice over the intercom, this one decidedly more urgent. "We're getting reports from the outer sensor net. There are things moving in the asteroid belt. A lot of things." Vex'tar's amusement died. "Define things." "We're not sure, sir. They're not showing up as ships exactly, but they're definitely artificial. And they're big. Really big." Maya checked her wrist again. "Oh, good. They're early. I was worried they'd be late." "What did you do?" Vex'tar growled, rising from his chair. "Me? Nothing much. I just sent a message home before I left." Maya shrugged. "You know how it is? Tell the family you're going on a business trip. Ask them to water the plants, feed the cat, mobilize the defense grid." "Defense grid?" "Well, we prefer to call it the Solar System Pacification Network, but defense grid sounds less ominous, don't you think?" The intercom crackled again. "Commander, we're getting massive energy spikes throughout the system. Whatever those things are, they're powering up." Vex'tar's tactical mind began processing possibilities. A hidden fleet? Cloaked weapons platforms? Some kind of doomsday device? But how had their intelligence missed something so significant? Impossible. Our scouts surveyed your system thoroughly. You barely have interplanetary travel, let alone weapons capable of threatening our fleet. "Oh, that?" Maya waved dismissively. "Yeah, we may have been a tiny bit dishonest about our technological capabilities. You know how first impressions can be misleading. You're bluffing." "Am I?" "Commander, how long did your scouts spend in our system?" 3 standard months, more than sufficient to catalog your primitive infrastructure." 3 months? Maya nodded slowly. "And during those 3 months, how many of our, what did you call them, tin can ships did they see?" Vex'tar paused. His scouts had reported seeing human vessels, certainly. Crude chemical rockets, basic fusion drives, nothing impressive. Several dozen. "Right. Now, Commander, I want you to think very carefully about this next question. In a system with 8 planets, hundreds of moons, and thousands of asteroids, how many ships would you expect a spacefaring civilization to have operating at any given time?" The temperature in the room seemed to drop several degrees. Vex'tar's mind raced through the implications. Several. 1,000. At minimum. So where do you suppose all our other ships were during those 3 months your scouts were watching us? The answer hit Vex'tar like a plasma blast to the chest. The human ships they'd observed hadn't been their fleet. They'd been decoys. Or worse, they'd been the civilian traffic, and the humans had hidden their actual military assets. You lied. We misdirected. There's a difference. Maya's smile turned predatory. See, humans have this funny habit. When someone bigger and stronger shows up looking for a fight, we don't always meet them head-on. Sometimes we get creative. Commander! The intercom voice was now openly panicked. The objects in the asteroid belt are launching something. Thousands of somethings. They're heading straight for us. Vex'tar's claws extended fully, ready to tear the human apart. What are those things? Oh, those? Those are what we call our mining platforms. See, humans have been strip mining the asteroid belt for about 50 years now. We've got quite an extensive industrial base out there. Automated factories, refineries, construction yards. Maya examined her fingernails with exaggerated casualness. Funny thing about mining equipment, though. The tools you use to crack apart asteroids work pretty well on spaceships, too. The ship shuddered as the first wave of projectiles struck their shields. Mass drivers, one of Vex'tar's warriors reported, his voice tight with something that might have been fear. They're firing tungsten rods at near-light speed. Kinetic kill vehicles, Maya corrected. We humans, we're not big on energy weapons. Too complex, too many moving parts. But accelerate a chunk of metal to 90% the speed of light? She made a whistling sound. Physics does all the hard work. The ship shuddered again, harder this time. Shields at 60% and falling, came the report from the bridge. Vex'tar stared at the human woman, trying to process what was happening. This is impossible. Our intelligence indicated your species was barely capable of interplanetary flight. Intelligence? Maya laughed, and for the first time, there was no humor in the sound. Commander, let me tell you something about human intelligence. We've been lying to each other for so long. We've made it an art form. You think we'd have any trouble lying to alien scouts? Another impact, stronger than the rest. Emergency lighting flickered on as the main power systems strained. Our species, Maya continued conversationally, as if they weren't currently under bombardment, has a saying, speak softly and carry a big stick. We showed you the soft voice. Now you get to meet the stick. How big a stick are we talking about? Vex'tar asked, though he was beginning to suspect he didn't want to know the answer. Maya tilted her head, as if listening to something. Well, let's see. Current count is about 12,000 orbital platforms, each one capable of accelerating a 1-ton projectile to 0.95 c, plus another 8,000 mobile units hiding in the outer system. She paused. Oh, and the lunar mass driver came online about 10 minutes ago. Lunar mass driver? We hollowed out about a quarter of Earth's moon and turned it into the galaxy's largest kinetic weapon. It can throw mountain-sized projectiles at near-light speed. Maya's smile returned. We call it the moon gun. Humans aren't great at naming things, but we're excellent at building them. The ship lurched violently to one side. Sparks flew from damaged control panels. Commander! The intercom crackled through static. We're taking massive damage. Shields are failing across multiple sectors, requesting permission to return fire. With what? Vex'tar roared. Our weapons are designed for close-range ship-to-ship combat, not engaging thousands of stationary targets across an entire star system. Well, that's embarrassing, Maya said. You know, for a species that's conquered 47 civilizations, you'd think you'd have encountered this strategy before. What strategy? Turn your entire star system into a fortress. Every human settlement, every mining station, every orbital platform is also a weapons emplacement. We don't have a fleet, Commander. We are the fleet. The lights went out completely for a moment before emergency power kicked in. You're insane, Vex'tar whispered. No, we're thorough. See, humans have been fighting each other for thousands of years. We've gotten really, really good at it. And the one thing we learned is that if someone wants to take your home, you make them pay for every inch. Another massive impact. This time, pieces of the ceiling fell. But here's the thing that really should worry you, Commander. Maya leaned forward, her voice dropping to almost a whisper. This isn't even our main defensive strategy. This is just our early warning system. What do you mean? Well, you've got about 300 ships in your fleet, right? And you brought all of them to intimidate little old Earth? Maya's smile was now genuinely terrifying. That was a mistake. Why? Because while you were bringing your entire fleet here, we've been sending our people to visit all those worlds you conquered. 47 civilizations that would love nothing more than to get some payback against their Kryllian oppressors. Vex'tar's blood turned to ice. You didn't? Oh, we absolutely did. Humans have this wonderful ability to make friends with anyone. And it turns out, a lot of your former subjects have been building up quite a bit of resentment over the years. They just needed someone to show them how to channel it effectively. The ship's hull groaned under another barrage. So while you're here getting pounded by our home defense system, 47 different species are simultaneously attacking every Kryllian military installation, supply depot, and administrative center in known space. Funny how hard it is to maintain an empire when all your troops are in the same place. Maya stood up and smoothed down her uniform. The technical term for what's happening to you right now is catastrophic strategic overextension. But we humans just call it getting your ass kicked. Vex'tar slumped in his chair, the full magnitude of the disaster beginning to sink in. They'd been outmaneuvered, outthought, and outfought by a species they'd dismissed as primitive. So, Maya said, checking her wrist communicator again, I believe I mentioned something about accepting your surrender. The intercom squealed with feedback before a new voice came through. This is Admiral Reyes of the Solar Defense Command. Kryllian vessels, you are completely surrounded and outgunned. Power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. Vex'tar looked up at Maya, who was now openly grinning. Did I mention we also have a fleet? Fleet? Vex'tar's voice cracked like a teenager hitting puberty. What fleet? Our scouts detected no significant naval presence. Maya walked over to one of the cracked viewports, gazing out at space with the casual air of someone admiring a sunset. Oh, you mean the ships we kept cloaked behind Jupiter's radiation shadow? Or the ones we parked in Saturn's rings? Maybe the carrier groups we stationed in the Oort cloud? Cloaking technology requires massive energy expenditure. Your civilization lacks the infrastructure to… Commander, Maya interrupted with a patronizing tone that would make a kindergarten teacher proud. You keep making the same mistake. You assume we're telling you the truth about our capabilities. Through the damaged viewport, sleek vessels began materializing from nowhere. Not the crude chemical rockets the Kryllian scouts had catalogued, but elegant warships that seemed to bend light around their hulls. Stealth coating, Maya explained helpfully. We borrowed the concept from cuttlefish. Amazing what you can accomplish when you stop thinking like warriors and start thinking like prey. Admiral Reyes's voice echoed through the damaged speakers again. Kryllian Commander, you have 30 seconds to respond before we demonstrate why humans call this star system the soul grinder. Vex'tar's tactical officer Kelthan stumbled onto the bridge, his armor scorched and his breathing ragged. "Sir, we've lost contact with 70% of our fleet. The humans aren't just attacking us. They're herding us." "Herding?" "Like livestock, sir. Their weapons fire is precise enough to disable our engines without destroying us completely. They want us alive." Maya nodded approvingly. "Someone's been paying attention. Yes, we find prisoners much more useful than corpses. Better for morale, too." "Whose morale?" Vex'tar demanded. "Well, ours, obviously, but also your former subjects. Turns out watching their oppressors get systematically dismantled is quite therapeutic for them." The ship suddenly lurched as something massive docked with their hull. The sound of cutting tools echoed through the corridors. "Boarding party," Kelthan reported unnecessarily. "How many?" Vex'tar asked, though he suspected he wouldn't like the answer. "Unknown, sir. Our internal sensors are being jammed by some kind of localized EMP field." Maya consulted her wrist device again. That would be Sergeant Collins and his team. "Fair warning, Commander. Human boarding tactics are a bit different from what you're probably used to." "Different how?" "Well, most species try to capture ships intact. We prefer psychological warfare." The lights suddenly cut out completely, plunging the conference room into absolute darkness. Emergency power failed to kick in. Then came the sounds. Footsteps that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. Voices speaking in hushed tones that somehow carried further than shouts. "Thermal imaging disabled," someone whispered in the darkness. "Audio scramblers active." Vex'tar's warriors activated their natural night vision, but the darkness remained impenetrable. Human technology was somehow blocking their enhanced senses. "The thing about humans," Maya's voice came from somewhere in the black, though she'd been standing right in front of them moments before, "is that we evolved as persistence hunters. We don't kill prey quickly. We follow it, track it, wear it down until it's too exhausted to fight back." A new voice, unfamiliar and distinctly male, spoke from the shadows. "Commander Vex'tar, Sergeant Collins, 3rd Human Expeditionary Force, you and your crew are hereby under arrest for crimes against sentient life, unlawful invasion of sovereign space, and really bad interior decorating." "You can't arrest us. We are warriors of the Kryllian Empire." "We're warriors," Collins corrected. "Past tense. Your empire ceased to exist about 20 minutes ago." Emergency lighting suddenly blazed back to life, revealing a dozen humans in matte black armor that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. They moved with the fluid precision of apex predators, weapons trained on every Kryllian in the room. But it was their eyes that made Vex'tar's blood freeze. Cold, calculating, patient. The eyes of creatures that had spent millennia learning exactly how to kill things. 20 minutes? Vex'tar stammered. "Impossible." Maya reappeared at the viewport, somehow having moved 30 feet without anyone noticing. "Sergeant, would you mind showing our guests the tactical display?" Collins activated a holographic projector, filling the air with a 3-dimensional map of Kryllian space. Red dots marked their former territories, now blinking steadily as they changed to blue. "Coordinated strike," Collins explained with the enthusiasm of someone discussing their favorite hobby. "Hit every major installation simultaneously. Your species made the classic mistake of centralizing command and control. Take out the command centers, and the rest of your forces surrender, rather than fight without orders." "But our warriors are bred for combat. They don't surrender." "Yeah, about that." Maya pulled up another display, this one showing casualty reports. Turns out your warriors are bred for fighting other warriors. Not so great against automated defense systems, orbital bombardment, and coordinated rebellions by really angry former slaves. The numbers were staggering. Entire fleets disabled or destroyed. Planetary garrisons overwhelmed. Command structures completely dissolved. The Ziggurat Collective sends their regards, by the way, Collins added. They particularly enjoyed reclaiming their homeworld. Something about finally getting revenge for the great culling? Vex'tar's mandibles clicked involuntarily. The Great Culling had been one of the Kryllian Empire's most ruthless campaigns, reducing the Ziggurat population from billions to millions in a matter of months. They remember that, do they? Maya asked with mock surprise. Funny how genocide tends to stick in people's memories. This is impossible, Vex'tar repeated, though his voice lacked conviction. Your species has barely achieved faster-than-light travel. Oh, we've had FTL for almost a century, Maya said casually. We just never felt the need to advertise it. See? Humans learned something important from studying galactic history. The moment you start expanding aggressively, someone notices. Someone bigger and nastier decides you're a threat. So you hid? We prepared. There's a difference. Maya gestured to the tactical display. Every human colony, every research station, every mining operation has been designed with one purpose: defense. We built our entire civilization around the assumption that someday someone like you would show up. Collins nodded approvingly. Paranoia as a survival strategy. It's very human. But how did you coordinate with the other species? The logistics alone. Commander, Maya interrupted. Humans have been running multi-species operations for decades. We just called them diplomatic missions instead of military alliances. You've been planning this for decades? Planning is a strong word. We prefer preparing for inevitable contingencies. The moment we detected your scouts, we activated protocols that have been in place for 50 years. The ship shuddered again, but gently this time. Docking clamps engaging rather than weapon impacts. That would be our transport, Collins announced. Time to go, people. Go where? Vex'tar demanded. Earth, Maya said simply. You wanted to see our homeworld so badly, after all. As prisoners, as guests, very special, very closely watched guests who will be participating in some extremely important legal proceedings. War Crimes Tribunal, Collins clarified. The other species have been documenting everything you've done to them for centuries. They're very thorough record keepers. Vex'tar felt something cold settle in his stomach. You're going to execute us. Execute? Maya looked genuinely surprised. Commander, humans don't execute prisoners of war. That would be barbaric. Then what? Rehabilitation, Collins said, with a grin that showed entirely too many teeth. We're going to teach you how to be productive members of a civilized society. You're going to brainwash us. Educate, Maya corrected. There's a difference. You'll learn useful skills, develop empathy for other species, maybe take some anger management courses. This is humiliation. This is mercy. Maya's voice turned deadly serious for the first time since they'd met. Do you have any idea what those 47 species wanted to do to you? The Ziggurat Collective was advocating for biological warfare. The Stellar Consortium wanted to turn your homeworld into a prison planet. The Helix Federation suggested something they called enhanced interrogation that would make your ancestors weep. Collins nodded grimly. Humans talked them out of it. Convinced them that justice works better than revenge. Why would you do that? Maya walked over to stand directly in front of Vex'tar, looking up at his towering form without a trace of fear. Because we're not you, Commander. We don't conquer species and grind them under our heels. We make allies. We build coalitions. We find solutions that don't require genocide. Even for your enemies? Especially for our enemies. See, the thing about humans is that we're really good at turning enemies into friends. Ask the Germans, or the Japanese, or the Russians, or any of the dozen other human nations that spent centuries trying to kill each other before we figured out that cooperation works better than conquest. The boarding ramp extended with a pneumatic hiss. Beyond it, Vex'tar could see a clean, well-lit corridor filled with humans and representatives of a dozen other species. All armed, all watching, but none showing the bloodthirsty glee he'd expected from victorious conquerors. So here's what's going to happen, Maya continued. You and your surviving crews are going to spend the next few years learning how the galaxy actually works. Not through conquest and subjugation, but through trade and cooperation and mutual respect. And if we refuse? Collins shrugged. Then you spend the rest of your lives in very comfortable prisons, thinking about what you could have been if you'd made better choices. Some choice. It's more than you gave any of your victims, Maya pointed out. Now, shall we go? I'm told Earth has some excellent rehabilitation facilities, great food, good entertainment, educational opportunities. As they were escorted from the ruined conference room, Vex'tar couldn't help but ask one final question. Captain Torres, why did you come alone to this meeting? Why not bring a fleet from the beginning? Maya paused at the threshold, that infuriating smile returning to her face. Because, Commander, sometimes the best weapon isn't the biggest stick. Sometimes it's just knowing how to use the one you've got. I don't understand. I came alone because I knew you'd underestimate me. You'd bring your entire fleet to intimidate one small human. And while you were wasting time trying to scare me, we were busy dismantling everything you'd built. She stepped onto the transport, then turned back one last time. The weapon I brought wasn't me, Commander. It was your arrogance. As the transport sealed and pulled away from the dying battlecruiser, Vex'tar stared out at the wreckage of his fleet, scattered like broken toys across the solar system. In the distance, Earth hung like a blue-green jewel, deceptively peaceful. He was beginning to understand why humans had survived long enough to become such formidable enemies. They'd turned survival into an art form.